Monday, March 16th, 2026. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful, and it's that time for your weekend update, your daily torment report, and other things relating to what's going on in the end times. Jesus told us in John 14:29, the reason he tells us these things beforehand is so that when they begin to happen, you will believe. And that's why we watch them. That's what we do. We watch the prophecies that he told us would happen come to pass, so that we, as well as those who might not believe, will believe. And all things are pointing to his soon return and the end of sin and our redemption finally being fulfilled in its fullness. So let's get on to talk about our weekend, about what happened on the weekend anyway. A lot of things that you're probably still aware of. Let's see. We're diving into the heavy mix. A heartbreaking terrorist attack on American soil. The intensifying war with Iran entering its third week. Global ripple effects, and a few other big stories. Oh, and you're going to want to stick around to the end because I have some updates on our timeline. We're going to be doing a timeline update report, which is going to be interesting. I may have gotten seal number 5 wrong by 6 months. We'll get into that. But before we do, let's talk about the tragic terror attack at Old Dominion University. This is heartbreaking news from Norfolk, Virginia. Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw, who was 42, a decorated Army officer and head of ODU's ROTC program, was killed in a targeted shooting on March 12th. His Constant Hall classroom. In his Constant Hall classroom. Shaw was a Virginia native, ODU alum, a combat Apache pilot with over 1,200 flight hours, including 600 or more in combat across Iraq, Afghanistan, and Eastern Europe. Some of the awards that he has 2 Bronze Stars, the Air Medal with Valor, Combat Action Badge, Senior Aviator, and more. He was a true hero, a family man, a mentor. 2 cadets described as compassionate, outgoing, embodying service. Now, the shooter was Mohammed Baylor Jola, who was 36, former Virginia Army National Guardsman, naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone. The background on him was that he was convicted in 2016 for attempting to provide material support to ISIS. He tried to join them, apparently. He plotted the attacks inspired by Fort Hood, sentenced to 11 years, released early in late 2024 on supervised release after a drug treatment program. The incident entered for the incident, he entered the ROTC class, shouted, "Can you guess it? Allahu Akbar," and then he opened fire, killing Shaw, unfortunately. And he ends up injuring 2 cadets. One is critically, which has now been upgraded to critical. So the brave ROTC students subdued and killed Jala, stopping more carnage. FBI investigating as terrorism. A gun seller, Kenya Chapman, charged for illegally selling Jala a firearm despite his felony ban. On the question of his citizenship, as a naturalized citizen, revocation is possible for terrorism-related convictions, but it requires specific legal processes, and it didn't happen here pre his release. So it's a tragic failure and oversight. Let's see, they've ordered the flags lowered in Virginia. Condolences to Shaw's family, ODU cadets. He died leading the next generation. May he rest in peace. All right, the big story that continues to dominate the headlines is the U.S.-Israel operations against Iran is continuing to rage on. If you hadn't heard, the refueling KC-135 plane crashed in western Iraq during Operation Epic Fury. There was no hostile fire involved, but all 6 crew members were dead. The total U.S. deaths now are at least 13. And apparently the rescue ops is complete. There's a major strike. President Trump ordered the bombing of military targets on Karg Island, which is Iran's key oil export hub. It handles about 90% of the exports. Trump ordered to totally obliterate the forces there, but he spared the oil infrastructure for decency, as he said. Iran, of course, vows retaliation. Regarding the Strait of Hormuz, which we're going to listen to a video today where that strait is going to come up from a rabbi who is talking about the war that happens before the coming of Mashiach, and he happens to mention the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Iran is blockading 1/5 of the world's oil. Trump calls on allies for coalition to escort ships through the strait. Japan and Australia says they have no plans yet. The markets are shaky. I think the barrels are over $104 now. Let's see. Hezbollah, which is a proxy for Iran and Lebanon, launched 200 rockets at Israel. I actually set up alerts. I don't know if you know this, but they have an app and multiple resources in Israel that will give you an alert if there's a incoming rocket that is detected. Well, I built it into my intelligence platform to notify me, and the rocket alerts were going off all weekend. Just to get an idea of what they have to go through, is it probably went off 10 to 15 times per day. Here, let me see if I can show you. See if I have any alerts right now. No, I don't have any alerts right now. Oops. Nope, that's Amir Sarfati's. Let's see. Can you see that? Alert, 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 alert. Went off all weekend. Oh, what it must be like to live in a war zone. So anyway, Hezbollah launched 200 rockets at Israel. Israel calls it joining the war. Expanded ground ops in southern Lebanon, which is ongoing as of today. They're pushing deeper in to destroy rocket sites, and they aim to create a buffer zone. Al Jazeera reports ground attacks are active. In the broader scope of things, the Israeli strike hit Tehran targets, including Supreme Leader's coordination plane. Iran missile attacks, cluster munitions on central Israel. Most of them were intercepted, and no property was damaged, I believe. Let's see. Iran's long protection of al-Qaeda leaders like Saif al-Adel, FBI's most wanted de facto leader in Tehran, despite sectarian differences, shared anti-U.S. hatred. The UN Treasury confirms ops from Iran under discussed reason for confrontation. Let's see. U.S. Embassy in Baghdad was attacked twice. They're urging all Americans to leave Iraq immediately. Over land, no flights. Militias are hitting the U.S. targets. Let's see, in other news, the FCC's Brendan Carr threatens broadcasters' licenses over hoaxes and distortions on war coverage. The F1 cancels the Bahrain-Saudi races due to safety, drones and missiles. Obviously a good choice. not the time to do a race. From Trump, MBS urged hitting Iran hard. The Gulf states are pledging support. Bottom line is the war is expanding. Proxies are active. Energy chaos. No end in sight. So it's a good time to pray for our troops. Let's see, on the domestic front, there was a case against an Antifa member. 9 from North Texas Antifa cell were convicted in Fort Worth. This is the first federal terrorism charges against alleged Antifa members after the 2025 ICE protests turned violent with gunfire and explosives. 8 were guilty of material support to terrorists. The shooter Benjamin Song added attempted murder. The Trump admin hails it as defense calls overreach. Drone threats. So cheap Iranian shahheads are killing U.S. troops, risking domestic attacks. Countermeasures are evolving. Shout out to Bandito Drone from GT Aeronautics, a small, cheap, and precise drone. These could swarm to defend bases quite affordably. Regarding parental rights, the Supreme Court of the United States petition pending on Maine's mom's case. This is where the school secretly transitioned her 13-year-old. Pronouns and binders without notice. Not sure what that means. Lower courts dismissed. State groups urge a review. Interesting. So Texas Tifa school choice lawsuits from Islamic schools and parents over exclusion due to CAR, terrorist designation, CAIR. There are no funds linked to entities, and Texas defends preventing radical indoctrination. Regarding the voter ID push, Representative Brandon Gill vows to block the Senate bill until Save America Act passes. Good for Brandon. Thune plans a vote, but there's probably filibuster issues, so it's unlikely to happen soon. We'll see. Let's see. Regarding Russian oil, Trump temporarily lifted some sanctions amid gas hikes. Grassley slams it as fueling the Ukraine war. Let's see. In Cuba, protesters stormed and vandalized local Communist Party building in mourn over blackout and shortages. Their chants of Libertad. There's reports of gunfire, and the regime is downplaying it. Fury says binders are tight bands that bind the breasts so that they appear flat under clothing. Oh, I get it. Okay. That's regarding that Supreme Court case. Let's see. Volcanoes. The Ring of Fire is active. Canloan, Philippines, erupted on March 15th, shooting ash plumes into the atmosphere. Leotobi, Laki, Indonesia, is continuing to erupt. Let's see. There's a renouncing citizenship. Wait, what? Renouncing citizenship fee dropped to $450 from $2,350. You have to pay to renounce your citizenship. Okay. Let's see. The State Department has a $10 million reward for tips on Iranian leaders like Mojtaba Khamenei. Fair enough. Let's see. In Dallas, there's shooting acts. The shooting suspect, Mike King, was former security for Representative Jasmine Crockett. Let's see. Drones and clearing land. Apparently, so they're using AI and drones for clearing landmines. Let's see. Message in a bottle from the Bahamas to Portugal. New African birding route for conservation. Quiet wins like community gardens and random kindness. Okay. All right. Well, that's all the news from the weekend. Let us get into our daily torment report.
Through trials faced, through testing days, you've kept my word, walked in my ways. Though strength was small, you held your ground. The door I've opened cannot be bound. They turned away, they closed their eyes, but I have written what none denies. Through fleeting fear and fleeting shame, you stood for truth, upheld my name. Hold fast, your crown is sure. The door I've opened will stand secure. A pillar raised in the temple of my God. the strength you've shown, the words you've kept. Through every storm, through tears you wept. Though they may mock, though they may strive, the truth you carry keeps hope alive. The key I hold, no one can take. The promise stands for those awake. The name I'll write, a prize divine. Forever yours, forever mine. Hold fast, hold fast.
All right, kicking off here with Donald Trump. Kind of a short day on posts. I know he was doing conferences. I was watching the lives today while I was working. His first one's an endorsement. No need to read that. So here he is just saying he's got news conferences today prior to the Trump Kennedy Center board meeting. Let's see. The crazed Democrats are not allowing TSA agents to get paid. The deal was made a long time ago. They broke it in order to get money for sanctuary cities and illegal aliens, many of them hardened criminals. The radical left Democrats are hopeless. President Donald J. Trump. They do seem to, they do appear to be, don't they? No panicins. Peace through strength. No panicins with a B2 bump. Nice. Let's see. Post 11 hours ago from Mark Thiessen, reposted by Trump. You know who's not having a buyer's remorse or panicking or looking for an off-ramp? Real Donald Trump. Every statement he makes is resolute. Spent more than a month planning this operation, and it is executing without flinching, keeping his head while others panic. That is leadership. This is in response to Axios, Behind the Curtain. The Iran war is the first time Trump's style has made it impossible for him to easily talk or improvise his way out. Whatever. Yeah, so he's not panicking. This was very well planned out. And, there is some other news. Oh, that's right. So found out late that the chief of staff, Susie Wiles, has breast cancer. There was another story, too, about a senator that I heard this weekend, that one of the senators had a heart condition and wasn't expected to make it past June. And where did I hear this? Apparently Donald Trump sent his personal doctors from the White House to go heal this guy. And they went and they performed extensive surgery on him, and he's all better. I mean, obviously he's had surgery, but his prognosis is extremely good. That was another thing that didn't get reported this weekend. I can't remember where I heard that. Might have been one of the conferences today, but I feel like I heard it this weekend. Let's see what else. Oh, the supreme leader in Iran is there's reports of him being gay. So Trump's been having a lot of fun with that as well. Reminds me of that South Park song. I'm super. Thanks for asking. All things considered, I couldn't be better, I must say. And I'm feeling so insanely super. All things are better when don't you think I look good in this hat? I'll have to find that and play it, although it'll trigger YouTube's copyright. Might be worth it. Let's see. Also found out that Trump is having a blast with the new Ayatollah. Yeah, that's the gay thing. Yep. The guy is in hiding and they are demanding proof of life. I imagine they would. All right, moving on back to Trump's posts here. So let's see. Michael Watley is so great running. Oh, so this is an endorsement. Is that an endorsement? Yeah, one of the very bests. Michael Watley is so great running against a really bad former governor who set murderers free to kill again and was grossly incompetent on the big hurricane cleanup. I had to get it done when I took office on January 20th, and I did. I hope the great people of North Carolina remember how bad Roy Cooper was as governor, especially on crime. Michael Watley will be a fantastic senator. He led the Republican Party to victory in 2024. Michael will be a great senator, one of the very best. So, and this is actually a repost of this. So we're just going to read this one because that way I don't have to zoom in. All right, the courts treat Republicans and me so unfairly, always seeming to protect those who should not be protected. They are highly politicized. Cases don't matter. It's the judge who does. As an example, how is this absolutely terrible Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Too Late Powell not even allowed to be investigated for the horrible job he does? How is he allowed to be billions of dollars over budget and years behind schedule on the simple renovation of the small Federal Reserve complex in Washington, D.C., where he created an absolute disaster, a muddy pit, and embarrassment to our country for the whole world to see? It is a little project that has been under construction for many years. The contractor on the job, along with Powell, should also be heavily investigated, and that it is impossible for a professional to have such enormous cost overruns. It is the highest priced building per square foot of any project ever built, with no end in sight, and may not even be open for many years to come. I strongly criticized Jerome Too Late for his horrible performance throughout his tenure, which is either gross incompetence, total dishonesty, or both. And in return for this well-justified criticism, get viciously and wrongfully blamed by, as usual, a wacky, nasty, crooked, and totally out-of-control judge named James Boasberg, a man who suffers from the highest level of Trump derangement syndrome and has been after my people and me for many years. The D.C. Circuit eagerly supported the arrest and persecution of innocent Republicans for no crimes at all, but is now preventing even a basic investigation into the gross financial mismanagement of the Federal Reserve. In case after case, Boasberg has displayed open, flagrant, and extreme partisan bias and contempt against Republicans and the Trump administration. To preserve the integrity of the judiciary, he should be removed from all cases pertaining to us and suffer serious disciplinary action, as should numerous other corrupt judges that, unfortunately, our country has had to endure. What Boasberg has done to the Too Late Powell case and many others has little to do with the law and everything to do with politics. He is exactly what judges should not be. Boasberg would do better to focus on justice and fairness, not his own, and the Democrats' political agenda, which has become legendary, much like prosecutor deranged Jack Smith and many others. Boasberg is a disgrace, as was his predecessor to our legal process and our highly politicized court system, which was just witnessed firsthand by the unfortunate and unwarranted tariff decision recently handed down by the United States Supreme Court, which was a gift to the countries and companies who have been ripping off the United States of America for decades at levels never seen before. The decision that mattered most to me was tariffs. The court knew where I stood, how badly I wanted this victory for our country, and instead decided to potentially give away trillions of dollars to countries and companies who have been taking advantage of the United States for decades. Our Supreme Court has made these countries very happy, but, as the court pointed out, I have the absolute right to charge tariffs in another form, and have already started to do so. The hundreds of billions of dollars that our adversaries want our country to pay back to others that have disrespected the USA until I came along, should be marked down in the eyes of the public as just another reason why the United States has been in such major decline. But not anymore, because we have made America great again, and very soon it will be greater than ever before. I want to thank Justice Alito, Thomas, and Kavanaugh for their wisdom and courage pertaining to the tariff case and for understanding. In addition to the law that our unfriendly competitors should not be reimbursed and rewarded for the decades of damage they have caused the United States of America, I will fight hard to make sure that this does not happen. The Democrats on the court always stick together, no matter how strong a case is put before them. There's rarely even a minor waiver, but Republicans do not do this. They openly disrespect the presidents they openly disrespect the presidents who nominate them to the highest position in the land, a justice of the United States Supreme Court, and go out of their way with bad and wrongful rulings and intentions to prove how quote unquote honest, independent, and legitimate they are. The Democrat justices just vote Democrat. They always stick together. This reminds me of a speech he gave during. I wonder if somebody didn't just record this speech that he gave during his conference today, because it sounds very similar. Same content, basically. They always stick together. Our country was unnecessarily ransacked by the United States Supreme Court, which has become little more than a weaponized and unjust political organization. The sad thing is they will only get worse. They wouldn't even call out the rigged presidential election of 2020 because they said that I, as president of the United States, did not have standing to challenge it, and now, with time, it has been conclusively proven to be stolen. And look what happened to our wonderful nation by allowing a grossly incompetent man, sleepy Joe Biden, to be our president. This completely inept and embarrassing court was not what the Supreme Court of the United States was set up by our wonderful founders to be. They are hurting our country and will continue to do so. All I can do as president is call them out for their bad behavior. The statement about the United States Supreme Court will cause me nothing but problems in the future, but I feel it is my obligation to speak the truth. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Fury says, Rep. Neil Dunn of Florida is the one that Trump intervened with. Thank you, Fury. All right, moving on. That was a very long post. I think somebody just probably recorded what he said during his conference today, because that's basically that's part of what he was talking about. Okay. Mark Levin, a truly great American patriot, is somewhat under siege by other people with far less intellect, capability, and love for our country. Mark is tough, strong, and brilliant, hence the nickname the Great One. That's an endorsement. We don't need to read it. Let's see. Iran has long been known as master of media, manipulation, and public relations. They are militarily ineffective and weak, but are really good at feeding the very appreciative fake news media false information. Now, AI has become another disinformation weapon that Iran uses quite well. Considering they are being annihilated by the day, they showed phony kamikaze boats shooting at various ships at sea, which looks wonderful, powerful, and vicious, but these boats don't exist. It's all false information to show how tough their already defeated military is. The 5 U.S. refueling planes that were supposedly struck down and badly damaged, according to the Wall Street Journal's false reporting, and others are all in service, with the exception of one, which will soon be flying the skies. Buildings and ships that are shown to be on fire are not. It is fake news. Generated by AI, for instance. Iran, working in close coordination with fake news medias, shows our great USS Abraham aircraft carrier, one of the largest and most prestigious ships in the world, burning uncontrollably in the ocean. Not only was it not burning, it was not even shot at. Iran knows better than to do that. The story was knowingly fake. And in a certain way, you can say that those media outlets that generated it should be brought up on charges for treason for the dissemination of false information. Fair. The fact is, Iran is being decimated, and the only battles they win are those they create through AI. And are distributed by corrupt media outlets. The radical left-wing press knows this full well, but continues to go forward with false stories and lies. That's why their approval rating is so low. I can win a presidential election in a landslide, getting only 5% positive press. They have no credibility. I'm so thrilled to see Brendan Carr, the chairman of Federal Trade Commissions, looking at the licenses of some of these corrupt and highly unpatriotic news organizations. They get billions of dollars for free of free American airwaves and use it to perpetuate lies, both in news and almost all of their shows, including the late night morons who get gigantic salaries for horrible ratings and never get, as I used to say in The Apprentice, fired. Thank you for your attention in this matter, President Donald J. Trump. That's why he threatened their license, Fury says. Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, like, once they're done over there in Iran, how will things change over here? You know what I mean? The influence. I mean, there's already people embedded into the area, but it'll be interesting to see how the flow of money changes and the influence and the threats in the world. The United States has beaten and completely decimated Iran, both militarily, economically, and in every other way. But the countries of the world that receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of the passage, and we will help a lot. The U.S. will also coordinate with these countries so that everything goes quickly, smoothly, and well. This should have always been a team effort, and now it will be. It will bring the world together towards harmony, security, and everlasting peace. We'll see about that. President Trump is reshaping the media. These guys are gone, and these are in reform, and these are the ones winning. Good. All right, that is all of his posts without getting into the weekend posts. So let's move over to Elon to see what he has to say. He's been posting quite a lot this weekend. Let me do a refresh just in case. Terafab project launches in 7 days. AI will be so beautiful. Oh, yeah. By the way, the proceeds of any large victory in the OpenAI case will be donated to charity. I will in no way enrich myself, says the richest man in the world. That's funny. Rocket Garden. You can see this from the public highway. That would be cool. Let's see. Mark Andreessen. In response to Mark Andreessen, it is 100% true that great men and women of the past were not sitting around moaning about their feelings. I regret nothing. Read your Adler, Cudahy, and Nietzsche, FFS. Okay. From Cremo. Ehrlich's legacy includes mass sterilization campaigns in India, China, and Peru. India's program was at such a massive scale. In 1 year, they sterilized 15 times more than the Nazis did during their entire regime. Yikes. Mark Andreessen, is 100% true that great men and women of the past were not sitting around moaning about their feelings. I regret nothing. Okay, that's what he was responding to earlier. See, a man whose predictions were wrong, not premature, lived a long life being celebrated by outlets like the New York Times, unlike those who suffered or never came to be because of his factually and morally wrong views. Paul R. Ehrlich, who alarmed the world with the population bomb, dies at 93. His best-selling 1968 book, which forecasts global famines, made him a leader of the, that's an interesting year. Made him a leader of the environmental movement, but he faced criticism when his predictions proved premature. It's an interesting year, to say the least. When we get to timelines today, you'll see why I say that. So what did we say to this? People today forget or simply can't believe how depraved Ehrlich really was. He demanded that the FCC require TV shows to depict large families in a negative light so that parents with multiple children would be shamed and ostracized by society. Why? He proposed forcibly sterilizing millions of Americans by poisoning the water supply to make them infertile. He couldn't think of a drug to do it safely, but wanted to do it anyway. Supported actual forced sterilization campaigns in India and China, where millions of people warned that population growth would lead to starvation, but also proposed cutting off food aid to overpopulated countries to reduce their populations by starvation. Keesh. What an evil dude. Wow. See, Jimmy Felia says if The Godfather were made today, it would not be eligible for an Oscar unless he transitioned to The Godmother and made somebody an offer they couldn't hear. You could still leave the gun. You could still leave the gun, but you couldn't take the cannoli unless the baker supports gay marriage. Rest in peace, Hollywood. Yeah, pretty much. Oscars have become I haven't watched the Oscars in so long. Yeah. Let's see. When you're finding fraud and somebody yells "stop," that's who's doing the fraud. That's been a perpetual that's been a perpetual saying from Elon ever since he's been doing Doge. So that's funny. Elon Musk tells his favorite joke about economists. Let's listen in.
This is the kind of you get in economics.
Yeah.
So if you say like just the output of goods and services, will be much greater. It's like my favorite joke. I have a few economist jokes that I like, but maybe my favorite one economist joke is. Two economists are going for a walk in the forest, and they come across a pile of shit. And one economist says, "I'll pay you $100 to eat a pile of shit." And so the guy takes $100 and eats the shit. Then they keep walking. They come across another pile of shit, and the other guy says, "Okay, I'll give you $100 to eat a pile of shit." So he gives him $100, and then the guys can say, "Wait a second, we both have the same amount of money." and we both ate a pile of shit.
Oh my God! It sounds
It's like but we increased the economy by $200. This is the kind of you get in economics.
Yeah.
So
I tell you, he's got a deeper understanding of this world than most people. That's pretty good. This is why he's rich. This is why he is the richest man on the earth. Oh my God, that made me tear up. It was so funny. See, there is no substitute for the person who knows what to do. Agreed. How's that saying go about the man who fixes the copy machine? The company tries to fix their copy machine, and finally they break down to pay the technician, who comes in and taps on one little tiny place on the copy machine and then sends them the bill. Like $1,100. There's like $100 for investigation, $1,000 for knowing where to tap or something like that. There's no substitute for knowing what to do. Let's see. Elon says America does not have magic ground that fundamentally changes who people are when they arrive here. If we filter for high work ethic, talent, and trustworthiness, we will get that. If we don't, we will inherit all the problems of the countries those people are leaving. The end. Yeah, that's a fair point. Says the man who employs 150,000 people. Let's see. He reposted ZB Ma. Oh, this is a grok thing. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, but if you had to guess, roughly when do you think you'll be home from battle? Huh? I don't get it. Let's see, this happened under a conservative government. Isn't it ironic that many Brits voted for Brexit because they wanted immigration to go down? How did this happen? Are we already into the weekend? Wow. All right. Well, fair enough. Let's move on. We got a video and some other things to cover today. So let's do Addressing the House of Israel. We're going to listen to a video.
Awake, awake, O Zion, arise. Shake off the dust, lift your eyes. The chains that bound you are broken at last. Your time of sorrow is now in the past. From darkness to light.
Oh, another thing I forgot to report on is there was apparently false reports that Bibi Netanyahu had died this weekend. And in order to provide proof of life, he went to a donut shop. Oh, and they were also claiming that he had 6 fingers based on some bad video, which wasn't really that bad. I'm like, anybody who watched it clearly said he's got 5 fingers. So that was a weird thing that happened this weekend. Anyway, I really like this guy. This is Parsha inspired. I like to listen to him. He's always got something positive to listen to. This one is particularly interesting because one of the most popular rabbis in Israel is now claiming that this is the final war before Mashiach arrives. So let's listen in on this. He's got a nice intro now.
This here is Rabbi Baruch Rosenblum, a leading rabbi, well accepted throughout all of Israel. Let's hear what he has to say.
בעזרת השם, ראש חודש, יהיה חדשות. מה יהיה חדשות?
God willing, Rosh Chodesh is this Thursday. There's going to be an announcement. What's going to be the announcement?
כל ישראל מירושלים. בעוד 5 דקות...
It's going to say, the radio is going to blast out saying, Kol Yisrael from Jerusalem. In 5 minutes, you're going to hear a...
So this Thursday is March 19th, which is also Nissan 1. Here, I want to show you guys what I worked on this weekend. We'll get into this a little bit more. So I built a timeline program because I got sick and tired of using like slideshows and presentation systems in order to calculate timelines. So I built a very thorough timeline illustration system. And that's what this is. So this is inspired from time.graphics, but their system was too limited. It wasn't really geared towards chiastic structures, celestial events, or calculating distance between time. So I wanted something that we could actually use as a tool to look at prophecy and pay attention to those things. Anyway, this is where we are here. This is today. And if we come down here and we turn on the Hebrew calendar, and we move this guy out of the way, you'll see that we are here at Nissan 1. So March 19th is Nissan 1, which is the beginning of the new year. So this is an important date for them that they're going to be talking about.
Warning.
תשמעו התראה, המשיח הגיע.
The Mashiach has arrived.
רבותיי, התראה חדשה. חודש הזה לכם, ראש חודשים ראשון.
Why do I think it's going to be on this Thursday? Because it says that the first Chodesh, the first month, is Nisan.
לחודשי השנה.
Okay, so something I want to remind you about here also is one of the things that we know to look for is claims of Mashiach being here. So this is one of the first ones I've come across that they're claiming that Mashiach is going to be here Thursday. So this is what it says. For then there will be great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of the world until this time. No, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. And I think the reason is he's not going to be here until the magnetic pole shift. So that's what this is. This is the magnetic pole shift is the thing that triggers him coming. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven. and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. This is going to be a global event. It's not going to be secret. Everybody will see it. It's going to affect the entire world. And we've seen in Revelation 6 that seal number 6 is when very likely that the earth rotates. So if we come over here and we look at seal number 6, then the sky receded as a scroll when it was rolled up, and every mountain and island moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So close, but probably not going to be this Thursday.
All the year. When will Mashiach come? Our rabbis teach us. It's going to come on the first day of Nisan, this Thursday.
Don't get me wrong, I'm all for it if he does show up. More power to him. I want the Mashiach to come because I want to move on with the end of sin.
Mashiach will come as it says in the verse. Why does he come on the first day of this month? To remove the head of Amalek on this Thursday. What do we have to finish? What part of the war do we still need to finish until we get to Rosh Chodesh Nisan? To remove the head of Amalek. Who is this? Chamenai number 1, Chamenai number 2, Chamenai number 3, Tachukai number 4, Hukai number 5. Any name that finishes with the E at the end. We have to finish them off. All the leaders of our enemies need to be finished off by this Thursday.
Interesting.
He's joking. He says, I called Trump and I told him, you got to finish the job by this Thursday. He says, God willing, you'll bring a B-2 bomber. You have enough of them. And you'll finish the whole thing. We'll finish it 1, 2, 3. And this will awaken, God will awaken our forefathers. Like it says, from the tips of the mountains and from the valleys, I will praise you. That means that on the first day of Nisan, there'll be amazing things that will happen. God willing, this Rosh Chodesh, this Thursday.
That's not a holiday, is it? Let me see. I added holidays to the calendars so I can track these things. So let's see. Turn on holidays. Jewish holidays. No, let's see. Pesach is not until April 2nd. Yeah. So it's just Nisan 1, so nothing really spectacular about that day. Check this out. Let's see. I also added zodiac constellations. So where's the sun? The sun will be in Pisces. Not that I know what that means. Moon phases, celestial events, vernal equinox. 3:20, day after. So does that mark Nisan 1, the vernal equinox? I added a bunch of these things. I have no idea what they mean or what they are. This is meant to be a tool for learning. I will probably end up releasing this so others can use it. I made it primarily for me. My objective this weekend was I wanted to figure out when the trumpets and the what do you call it? The bowls and the trumpets were going to be, and I ended up just making the ultimate timeline platform so that I could visualize these things, including the chiastic structures, and that's what we ended up with. It's pretty cool. I'll probably release it once I get it secure enough that others can add their own timelines. One of the cool things about it here is I made it really easy to anybody who has dictated any kind of a timeline with dates. I made it really easy to import all that information. So I've got like the full Messiah 2030 timeline in here, which is interesting. So if you want to look at the full Messiah, there's a lot of data on this. Hello. Anyway. It's a couple of the other popular ones. El Shaddai Ministries, Return of the King, John Bevere, God's Roadmap to the End, and Christian Widner's timeline are all in here, so that we can compare notes and see if there's any see if anybody discovers anything that we can, just get answers. It's not about who's right. It's really just about doing the work of watching and paying attention. I can't watch it all, so I wanted a way to be able to compare notes, and I'm probably going to add a feature. So once I release this, I'll add a feature to where you can automatically have like AI compare the differences between timelines. So like if we wanted to see the difference between Christian Widner and mine, which is this is really easy because he just puts everything before this. Like he's just like, this is the end of the tribulation. So, yeah, it's funny in doing this, I realized I probably have the most exhaustive timeline out of most just other than Messiah 2030. Messiah 2030's got a pretty exhaustive timeline. Anyway, we're getting distracted with this. We'll come back after this guy.
There'll be news. What'll be the news? Kol Yisrael from Jerusalem. In another 5 minutes, we're going to hear a warning. The Mashiach has arrived.
See, this is interesting. So he's basically making a prophecy here that the Mashiach is going to arrive on Nisan 1. And I think this is one of the cases where the Jews are going to start to be reconciled with the Christians. So I wasn't really clear on Friday or not Friday, but when I did the talking about Elijah, and I do believe that Donald Trump is a good candidate for Elijah because he's a catalyst. And Tobias Singer made the comment, he made the argument that the effect of Elijah is that fathers and sons are going to be reconciled to Hashem. My argument, which I think is a way better argument with where we are in the times, is that Jews and Christians are going to be reconciled. Because I look at kind of the Jews as, the fathers, or even the woman, because the woman in pain to be delivered is, I believe, refers to Israel. And she's in pain to be delivered. So there's a lot of imagery there, and it's well known that Christianity is the child of Judaism. It's an offshoot of Judaism. You had Jesus, who was Jewish, who came to teach how to live the law appropriately. He came to fulfill the law. He basically showed us this is how you fulfill the law. And he broke it down simply to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And from that, you had the formation of many religions that tried to implement that. And, we still live in a world controlled by demons and evil spirits. So it's a challenge, to say the least. But the truth remains that that it seems as though Judaism are the fathers, and I'd say Christians are the children, to where there's the reconciliation of them, because Christians need to realize that Jews were chosen by God for a reason. Who they are and how they live their life and how they follow Torah. There's a reason. I believe that they're the rod of iron because they're stubborn and stiff-necked. They're very hard to deviate from their religious practices, which are close to what God intended. However, they fall short in the loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself, which is why you need the Christians. So there's a coming together of the Jews and the Christians. That's my personal That's my personal understanding of what it is that Elijah's doing, and the fathers turning to the children and the children to the fathers, is you can see this spiritually happening right now, to where both Jews and the Christians are looking for the Messiah. I'd say the Christians are probably more inclined. They're probably more right in looking for in who they're looking for, because I do believe that Jesus is the Messiah the Jews are looking for, and that somebody has got to be a catalyst. Somebody's going to wake up the Jews for them to realize that. Granted, that more and more Jews are realizing that they're coming to. There's a messianic Jewish movement. To where many of them are recognizing that Yeshua was the Messiah and they're waiting for him to come back, but there's still those who aren't. And it's interesting, though, that we're all at this period of time looking for the Messiah, but got to be mindful of. I honestly don't think. Oh, my point in this whole explanation was, I don't think he's going to show up on Nissan, because I believe the New Testament is true in Matthew when it describes what's going to happen. This is part of the realization. This is part of what Jesus, when he said, I tell you these things beforehand so that when they come to pass, you will believe. That's what this recognition is, So this is one of their top rabbis, and he's saying Mashiach is going to come Nissan first. Well, Matthew 24 warned us about that, which means Jesus warned us that he was going to do this. And he said, don't believe it. And I believe the reason he said don't believe it is because Matthew tells us when the Son of Man is going to return. Revelation, seal number 6, tells us when the Son of Man is going to return, when the Messiah is actually going to return. And there's events around that need to take place, that need to come to pass. And they need to be made aware of that. So there's a period of time here where they need to realize they're going to make these predictions. They're going to be wrong. They're going to wonder why they're wrong. And hopefully someone somehow will get their attention, which is one of the reasons why we do the addressing the house of Israel, is in an effort to get their attention. Maybe it'll take all, the Christian, all of us who are actively on YouTube, talking about this every day. Maybe it's a collective effort. I don't know. Maybe they'll see one of my videos. Who knows? But the objective is to look. Jesus told us these things beforehand so that when they begin to come to pass, you will believe. That's the point. And that recognition, I think, will bring together both Jews and Christians, and that will be that reconciliation, for that Malachi 5 talks about the fathers to the children and the children to the fathers, not the daddy Jews and kitty Jews, like Tovia Singer says. Hilarious. All right, let's continue.
לפעול חדשות בראש וראשון. אם יגידו נשמעה התראה.
To tell you that there will be special things, amazing things happen. If I were to tell you that there was a sound, a siren that was heard,
להיכנס לממ"ד זה לא חדשות.
to tell you to go into the safe room, that's not news.
זה כבר ישנות, נכון?
That's already old news. Everybody knows that.
ברוך השם.
Thank you.
לעשות מה שנקרא מיגון מיטבי.
To make a complete protection around ourselves, that we know how to do.
ברוך השם.
We know
אם
how
יש
to do.
לכם מיגון מיטבי, חדשות המשגיח מגיע, יהיה מיגון. לרצות חידוש שורת ראש וראשון.
This is to awaken the redemption on the first of the first.
נביא לקדוש ברוך הוא קורבנות,
To
שיבוא
bring
משיח.
the offerings that are in Ezekiel 46 that we bring for the Melech HaMashiach.
יש ברכות שמברכים. צריכים להתכונן, יש ברכות שמברכים.
There are special blessings that we need to say. We need to know these blessings before Mashiach comes.
ביאת משיח. להוביל בו שי לראש וראשון.
And we have to bring a gift on the first of the first. We have to bring a gift to Mashiach.
מי מובילים? מובילים שי לקדוש ברוך הוא מה? את כל הקורבנות שאנחנו צריכים להביא לו על מה שחטאנו.
We have to bring sin offerings for the sins that we have done.
ושאבינו נביא לקדוש ברוך הוא קורבנות.
We're going to bring to God our offerings.
היום הביא
So Fury made a really good comment here in the comments. Some Christians have to realize that replacement theories so many are preaching are wrong and not scriptural. 100%. Yeah, Jesus did not come to replace the law. You're going to be held. Why do you think that in Matthew 7:22, the scariest section of the Bible, where Jesus says, "For many will come to me, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cast out demons in your name? Did we not do many wonderful works in your name? And then I will say to you, get behind me, you who practice lawlessness." Why would he tell that to them? Because those who are under the impression, who think that he came to replace the law, are mistaken. He did not come to replace the law. It doesn't even say that in Scripture. He came to fulfill the law. And by fulfill, it means show us how to live the law. And he showed us throughout his entire life, both in his, before he was a rabbi, while he was a rabbi, and even in his death. He showed us how to live Torah. So we have an example of how to do it right. And many Jews are better at this than Christians. But at the same time, Christians are better at loving their neighbor as themselves. So we both have things that we need to learn from each other, and that's what that reconciliation is. And one of the things that many Jews, bring up as a sign of the end times is many will seek out the Jews, saying, "Teach us of your Father, teach us of Hashem." And there's many Christians that and Jesus warned us about this. He warned us in John 5:43. He says, "I come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. But one will come after me in his own name, him you will receive." So there's people out there who are following a Jesus who comes in his own name. And that Jesus is not leading them to the Father. This is why in the end time, one of the signs is many will come to the Jews saying, "Show us Hashem, teach us about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob," is because they inherited lies. And both sides, both Jews and Christians, have inherited lies. So there's going to be a reconciliation between the two. We all have pieces of the puzzle.
Today, a special Jew brought me He brought me a little piece of a book that was written by a man, a great sage named Rev Shmuel Laniado, who lived 500 years ago and wrote the following thing. The name of the book that it's found in is called Klipaz. In the book of Isaiah, on the verse that it says,
כי זבח להשם בבוצרה וטבח גדול בארץ אדום. מה זה בוצרה?
What is Botzra? What is this place that Isaiah is talking about when he says Botzra? There's a song everybody sings, many Jewish homes singing. It's called Dro Yikra. And in that song, what does it say in that song about the third temple? It brings this word, Botzra, that's found in Isaiah 34. So let's start practicing. Let's start figuring out what Botzra is. What is this place called Botzra that relates to the third temple?
So
Reb Shmuel Laniado answers this question on this verse. What does it mean that there will be an offering to God in Botzra? There's a country that's far from Bavel, far from Babylonian, and its name is Botzra. And it's between Ashur and Persia. And it's at the border of Edom. What is the name of this place? It's called Hormuz. Anybody in the crowd knows what Hormuz is?
The Strait of Hormuz? That's right here. Right there. That's the Strait of Hormuz. Right there. Right now you can see the war is still active with GPS being actively blocked. And still marked as a conflict zone. Wildfires and attacks and bad air quality, I imagine, from even disease outbreaks in Qatar. But right here, that is the Strait of Hormuz, which when you zoom out, you got South Africa there. You've got Asia, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Europe right there, and then Hormuz. The United States is on the other side of the world right there. Just to give you perspective of where that is. Right there. Country boundaries. There you go. Strait of Hormuz. I need to add labels for bodies of water. All right, let's go back.
What's Hormuz? That is the Strait of Hormuz. Anybody know what's going on right now in the Strait of Hormuz right now? The Iranians wanted to put bombs there, that any boat that passes through will blow up.
Yeah, the U.S. blew up all their boats.
They're going to stop all the pathways for oil to get through. And then what's going to happen? There won't be oil in the world.
So that's not entirely true. We read today that it's 1/5 of the world's oil, and the reason is that a lot of oil is produced over here in Saudi Arabia and in this area. So this is where, over here, is where a lot of oil is produced, and then they ship it out of this area. But it is not all of the world's oil. It is only 1/5 of the world's oil, but it is a large number, and it serves certain countries some more than others. And to be fair, some states within countries more than others, like California, for instance, will only accept oil from this location because they have special formula requirements for the environment or whatever. So while there are other places to get oil from, this does have a pretty big impact globally. It's not all the world's oil.
1/3 of the world gets their oil through this strait.
I have no idea who's right. He says 1/3. Today we read 1/5. Who knows?
What's going to happen if the Iranians close it off? What did Trump say? When he got the bullet, just nipped his ear, God spoke to him. What did God tell him? So what did Trump say? You gave me a bullet in my ear. Any boat that goes through the Hormuz Strait, I'm going to take out. He took out already 20 boats. And he says, if you don't stop, we're going to do everything to keep this path of Hormuz open. And Rav Shmuel Eliyahu wrote, and this is the place that's called Mitzrei Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz. And he says that 500 years ago, he wrote that this strait is under the control of the Ishmaelim. And blessed is those who understand what this means. Perhaps this place will be the place where the final war will take place. Gentlemen, who knows if the news we're going to get this Thursday on...
So again, that was one of the reasons why I started building this timeline platform. It is really to answer that question that I think it was Liz. Correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody else had asked this question about when was the Battle of Armageddon. And we've been kind of slowly touching on this and looking at different resources and doing research on it to find out if it's not a single period of time that like culminates in Armageddon, or if there's multiple battles, if there's the Great Tribulation, the Gog-Magog War, and then a separate one, Armageddon. And also, where do these fit in the timeline of events? Because during seal number 7, there are 7 trumpets and 7 bowls. It seems as though there's 7 trumpets and 7 bowls after the opening of seal number 7. That's one of the reasons I built this platform, is to start answering those questions, because we're getting to the point now to where we have so many puzzle pieces that we can start making educated guesses. And with a platform for tracking the timeline, we can simply update as we learn more information.
Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Every day we say Kriya Shema. We say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Every Jew knows this. This is the anthem of Judaism, and we don't have to go into prophets to get this message. What is the essence of these verses that we say? Well, we start off by saying that God is one. The next thing we say is we should love Hashem with all our heart, with all our money, and we have signs. We put on tefillin on our head and our hand.
I don't think that's written in the scripture. Isn't it with all your hearts, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength? I don't know if it's with all your money. That might be a modern interpretation.
And we have a mezuzah.
Not that you shouldn't honor God with all your money, with all your everything that you have. I mean, everything you have is because of Hashem. So I kind of get what he says. Just struck the ear weird.
On the wall, and men wear tzitzis, which show our connection to God. We have a whole video on that. But what's the central part of this message? It says, V'haya im shemoa, if you follow the Torah.
You know, when Jesus comes back, do you guys think that they'll still do all of those things? Like the tefillin, the tefillin, and the word on the head and stuff like that? That kind of stuff kind of seems a little above and beyond to me. I don't think it's really hurting anything, but I think that's kind of where the difference is between Christians and the Jews is, the Jews take things quite literally, and, they're, the original people of promise, of covenant, and, they clearly have a special place in God's heart because they're called the apple of his eye. And touching them is an abomination of desolation. But at the same time, like, I think that was what Jesus came to show, is just like the difference between the religious application of Torah and Torah as part of life. Like, I think there's a place to learn from them, because many Christians don't have the habits that Jews have. Many Christians don't pray 3 times a day. Many Christians aren't making a conscious effort to think about Hashem. Many Christians fight and argue about Sabbath, or they just completely ignore Sabbath. So, like, there's a lot that we can learn from Jews. And likewise, the Jews could also learn to relax, because it's not a death sentence, if you don't do those things. So I can see the two extremes and how they're perfectly situated to balance each other out.
Then you will be able to live in Eretz Yisrael, and the land will give forth the rain and the fruit. But if you don't listen, God will close up the sky, and there'll be no rain, there'll be no food, and you'll have to leave. What are the few verses that right precede V'hoyed Shemoah, if you will listen, in the Torah? What does it say? It's talking about the difference between Mitzrayim and Eretz Yisrael. It says that Eretz Yisrael is not like Mitzrayim. What's Mitzrayim? Very simple. Mitzrayim is the place where the Nile River gives forth its sustenance, and it doesn't care who's there. That's exile. Exile means there's no connection. But the whole purpose of all Shema is for us to be able to be in the relationship, V'haya im Shemoah. We follow the Torah, we follow the mitzvos, so that we could be merit to be able to be in the land. How do we know when we're able to be in the land? Well, it's very simple. If you can, and the land is giving forth its fruit and welcoming you, and Israel is succeeding in its wars and wiping out its enemies, that's a sign God is with you. You ask, how do you know this? Well, read the Torah. Read the book of Judges. Every single war, when the Jews follow the message of God, when they follow the Torah, they succeed at war. And following the Torah and repentance is the single factor that wins wars. So will Mashiach comes this Thursday on Rosh Chodesh Nisan? I really hope so.
Yeah, me too.
But what does it depend on? It depends on
doubt
us.
it, though.
Us are doing our part of welcoming Mashiach is to get on board. Right now, not everybody can come to Israel. The skies are closed. Perhaps that's what it means. We will come on the wings of birds, of an eagle, because perhaps we will need a miracle to get the rest of the Jews back by Rosh Chodesh Nisan.
Oh, I thought this was a lot longer.
And miracles are easy to come by when the Jews are in the land. Thank you for watching Shavua Tov.
Oh, that was a lot longer. All right, let's move on to the timeline update.
I created the heavens and the earth, a perfect harmony, a timeless birth. I shaped the stars, I set them free, a world of wonder, a song for me. I formed the man, the dust took flight, I gave the woman a shared delight.
All right, here we go. Let's see, which side do I want to be on? Well, we'll do this side. All right, so you've kind of been introduced already to this. So what we have here is a timeline that goes from left to right. So this is 2020, this is 2020, 2030, right there. This here is the anchor point. So this, in my mind, is pretty much the most important indicator that we're in the end time. And I'll be adding in the videos and the images for the sign that actually appeared in heavens. You've seen them before. There are these here. I'll be adding these into the timeline. But for now, the dates are really what's important. So we've got these here, which this is the Revelation 12 sign. This is the anchor point. 2 days before the anchor point was Tishri 1. So Tishri 1 is the beginning of the Hebrew New Year. It is typically in September on the Gregorian calendar. So this time frame is right here. So you've got from Tishri 1 in 2017 to Tishri 1 in 2031. And the reason I chose that period of time is because we're well past the 7-year mark. And there's a lot of people who are expecting everything to happen and sum up in one 7-year period of time. Which it's interesting because Yeshua, he does a lot of talking about the Lord being delayed. And there's also a lot of precedent in the Old Testament for, your expectation of 7 years not being fulfilled, but having to actually work 14 years. So who was it? Joseph, who worked for Rachel and then Leah, something like that, or Leah, then Rachel. And so there is a precedent for a 14-year period of time. So once we got to the 7-year mark and we'd only experienced the first 4 seals, that's when I started adding, well, we're going into another week of years. And that's what this is right here. This right here is 2 weeks of years. So this represents a 14-year period of time from here to there. So that's what that is. So this happened 9/23/2017. These right here, these little suns represent eclipses. I should probably put a little black dot inside there. to make those more clear. So these are eclipses, and there's an interesting pattern here. And then down here, the red ones are blood moons, which is interesting to pay attention to. A lot of the other watchmen, the people who pay attention to the timelines, they focus heavily on the triads and tetrads, which I don't put a lot into the blood moons. There is some reference to blood moons, like the sun will be darkened and the moon turned to blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord. But it's far fewer than the eclipses being used to mark the opening of seals. So it, based on what we've seen and what has happened so far, the certain eclipses happened on the same day as events. So we have COVID here, December 26, 2019. This was when COVID was first kind of publicly became an increasing issue. I used to have a ton of videos that proved that like they had traced back the start of it to December. I'll find out. Some of them have been removed, and now they're actually changing the date back to like November. So I don't know. When I originally watched this eclipse happen and watched those events happen, it was pretty convincing that this was the opening of Seal 1. And also the sign in heaven is kind of another giveaway. Is not only, so these are the 4 living creatures. So Revelation 4 acts like a key to understanding the events, what to look for. So this picture right here is looking down at the North Pole. And then when you look down at the North Pole, you've got constellations in the corners of the earth that match the 4 living creatures. I'm sure there is dual meaning to everything that's written in the book of Revelation, but just for the purpose of identifying when events have happened, these were vitally important. So you've got a lion, the bull, the face of a man, and a flying eagle, given in that order. And then the 24 elders seem to be associated with the sun and the moon, which is why you see this little breakdown right here. So this is the 24 time zones, if you will, or 24 hours in a day, indicated on the earth. So, and then when they cast their crowns, so basically when the sun and moon come together in a particular section of the sky, that's when the living creature is saying, "Come and see." So this is all written in Revelation 4. So this was the eclipse that happened on December 26, 2019. Is there was a crown above Sagittarius. So when seal number 1 says the rider on the what does it say? The rider on the here we go. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying, notice it doesn't say which of the 4 living creatures, it just said one of the 4 living creatures, saying with a loud voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown had been given to him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And that's what happened on this day. So you've got a rider on a horse. He's given a crown, and he has a bow, and you have a living creature right above him. Right here is Aquarius, or not Aquarius, Aquila, the flying eagle. It's right here. So this is right above Sagittarius. So basically, the day that this eclipse happens, you've got Aquila saying, "Come and see." And if you think about it, John's perspective when he had this vision is he's up here at the North Pole. So it's as if you can imagine him right here with the angel looking down at the earth, and then if you could see this flying eagle say, "Hey, come and see," and it calls John down to watch the event that happened on this day. Well, that was the beginning of COVID. This was when they started locking people in their apartments. There had been a reported outbreak. And then this is like the kind of the start of events that ended up resulting in the pandemic. And then here you got seal number 2 right here. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come and see." Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. So this was that eclipse. So this was December 14th, 2020, which is right here, December 14th, 2020. And this was the day they declared Joe Biden to be the winner of the presidential election. It also happened to be the same day that he was given control over the vaccine. So he started giving the vaccine that very day. And it's interesting here because notice a lot of people like to say that this is the day that war breaks out. That's not what it says. And it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth. So that is true about the office of the president. And Joe Biden definitely did that. Trump likes to say that had he been in office, the Ukraine-Russia war would have never happened. But because Biden was in office and because he was a very weak president, war did break out and peace was taken from the earth. And even to this day, there's still a continued conflict between Russia and Ukraine to the tune of 30,000 people are losing their life. And it says, and that people should kill one another. That's what they're doing right now. They're killing one another. And there was given him a great sword. Some interpretations of this are little dagger, which when combined with the fact that the constellation is holding Asclepios, the god of toxinology and toxicology, it's just a lot of coincidences happening on the day of this eclipse. So we marked it here on the calendar. And then this one is the one that really confuses people. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales. Pair of scales is a really bad translation. It should be a yoke. Pair of scales is zugos in the Greek, and it can be and should be translated yoke. He had a yoke in his hands. Well, this is the eclipse. It happens to be in the bull, which is a beast, between his two horns. And this is the day that Joe Biden and Boris Johnson signed the new Atlantic Charter at the G7. This is what yoked together the United States and the United Kingdom. There were 8 categories that they agreed to support each other on. And I'm personally of the opinion that this was the acceleration of the woke mind virus and the cancel culture, because it was intended to persecute the saints in both the two of the greatest places on earth. We saw that continually. And this is what Elon disrupted when he bought Twitter. And then Donald Trump, further smashed when he regained power back as president of the United States. But this is a yoke. This is what the rider on the black horse is holding. He's holding a yoke, which you can understand why it might be translated balance, pair of balances. Because, if you put a pole here and then you put a pan over here and a pan over here, then it balances between the two. But considering the word is zugos, and it is most often translated as yoke, it's weird that it was translated as pair of scales here. And it's entirely likely the reason being is because right here I have this span of time. This is Revelation 6:6, which is the verse right after seal number 3. And it says, "And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures, saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine." So this verse is saying that in the midst of the 4 living creatures. So basically, you've got the 4 living creatures drawing attention to this to these dates, right? So imagine, if you will, if you come back over here, you've got these living creatures saying, come and see, come and see COVID, come and see Joe Biden and the vaccine, come and see they're signing a new Atlantic Charter, yoking together 2 beasts, the United States and the United Kingdom. Beasts represents governments. So he's calling attention. And then finally, you've got this one, Leo, calling attention to the Aloxa flood. But this is the one that a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people miss. And I heard a voice in the midst. Midst means middle of the 4 living creatures. Well, these are the 4 living creatures right here. So they're calling attention to events, so it stands to reason that that what it means is that the result of these first 4 seals is going to be inflation. And indeed, that's exactly what happens. Inflation got up to 30-40%. Officially reported as 9%, but it got up pretty high. And we're still suffering the consequences of that, but it's come down in a lot of areas. It's not as prolific as it was. Many states were blessed with $2 gasoline for the first time in 10 years. In our area, eggs are back down to like $4, $4 to $5 for a carton of 12 eggs. So, inflation is definitely coming down now that we're out of or coming out of seal number 4. But anyway, so and then you've got seal number 4 here, which is a 2-part. So you've got the when he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature saying, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on him was Death. And Hades followed with him, and power was given to them over 1/4 of the earth to kill with sword, with hunger, and with death, and by the beasts of the earth. The thing about the description on these things is they're so hard to quantify. Like, I don't have eyes on the entire globe, but I can tell you that the Al-Aqsa flood, which is what this seems to be referring to, on October 7th, that's when Hamas, who is the proxy for Iran, and indeed Iran was supposed to be involved in this attack. It's just that Hamas got anxious and went in early. This was supposed to destroy Israel. This is why I say that this is very likely the abomination of desolation, because according to Luke 21, it says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded, know that its desolation is near. And Jerusalem indeed was surrounded. So if we look over here, where are we? Jerusalem's up here. This is Jerusalem right here. Israel. And even to this day, you can see there's, war measures going on. But, you got Syria up here, you got Jordan over here, you got Egypt over here. You've got Iran, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia. You've got enemies on all sides. Turkey, pretty much everybody around them, for some reason, they want this plot of land. Which is funny, because it's it's not a very big spot, but they're all fighting over it. And sure enough, there was a plan, and this is confirmed. There was a plan for multiple countries to go in simultaneously and completely wipe out the Jews in Israel. So it's very likely that that is the abomination of desolation. It's also likely that it's the flood talked about in Revelation 12, where the serpent cast out a flood after the woman, because this is the woman, but the earth swallowed it up. Oh, and right here, this is Palestine. So this is where Hamas was. So they invaded over here. They came in over here. The border without walls, the country without walls, they invaded right here. There was literally just chain link fences between Palestine and Israel. And yeah. Let's go back over here. So October 7th was very likely the abomination of desolation. And then a week later, 7 days later, you had Operation Iron Sword, which is when Israel mounted their attack and went in to retrieve their hostages, because there were 1,200 who were killed, 1,200 or more, who were killed in the attack, and 250 who were taken hostage. And this was a pivot point for the world. I mean, even Elon Musk, I think even to this day, he still wears the dog tags. He may not wear them, but He wore the dog tags and vowed that he would wear them until every single hostage was returned. I haven't checked to see if he actually has taken them off, but he was wearing them last time I checked when before they had reported that all the hostages had been returned. But yeah, so you've got the abomination of desolation, you've got the inflation, and then this is, let's see, right here is where Donald Trump was elected the president. Well, actually, he was elected back in November, but this is when he took office. So this is the first time that Donald Trump and Elon Musk started working together. And, you know, I'm of the opinion that based on this timeline, you know, we're running out of time here. You know, we've already gone through 9 years from the anchor point. So how far, the question is how far away, how far can we get away from this anchor point, this unique sign, in order to fulfill all the prophecies about the end time? I'm of the opinion we don't really go past 27, 28, probably 2028. Yeah. I'm going to show you how I might be off by 6 months here in a minute. This is a kind of a realization I had this weekend because I was trying to measure it out to where this is. So if you take these guys like this is kind of the chiastic structure that I've been pointing at for the longest time. So you see how they so this was, you know, this lasted how many days? 354 days, 178 days, 2 years and 119 days. This was 2 years and 127 days. And then what is likely seal number 5. So that is basically this right here. So based on the you can see the symmetry here to where there's a pattern between these seals opening, and it's almost a lot clearer to see the first time when you see it like on an Excel spreadsheet, which me and this guy both came up with this probably around the same time. I literally put together an Excel spreadsheet. I wonder if I have it on here. I probably do. Yeah, right here. So I came up with this right around the same time that he did. And I was just trying to figure out a way to visualize eclipses and blood moons. So the first time you see it, you see that there's a pattern to the eclipses. So these yellow marks represent eclipses. So eclipse, 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 eclipse. Total solar eclipse, I should say, specify. And then right here you can see where they move. So like this eclipse moved here, moved there. These are lunar eclipses, I think. And then this is a solar move there, solar move there. But what really got our attention is they reverse. And when you look at this timeline here, you can see how that works, right? So if you look at this is what's interesting. So these are eclipses. You got 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there's a period of time with no eclipses, just lunar blood moons. Then you have 3 eclipses in a row. And then you have a period of time again. And then you have 6 eclipses. Oops. I am not pointing to the right map. You might have gotten the point because I was moving it around. But right here. So these are the 6 eclipses right here. And then you got a space here. And then you got 3 eclipses. And you have another space. And then you got 6 eclipses here again. So there is a pattern. And it seems, you know, the interesting thing is this right here. I don't know. Maybe you could even argue. You could argue that this is the center point. I may need to adjust my Excel spreadsheet, because this might actually be the center point. See, based on the pattern here, I assumed that this eclipse would be seal number 5. But if you notice, this one started on the second one, and then the 4th one, and then the 5th one. So it may be that we need to move these over. So this may actually be seal number 5. This might be seal number 6, and then this would be seal number 7, which it's interesting because seal number 7, if we have this end in 2028, that actually puts it more in line with the death of the 2 witnesses. So if we come in here, one of the dates for the death of the 2 witnesses is July 3rd, 2028, based on 1,260 days from January 20th. So that might mean that right there is closer to the opening of seal number 7. So we might actually be off. I might have been off by 6 months. And the reason I say 6 months is, you know what I noticed about these eclipses? Check this out. This is so cool. There's 177 days between every single eclipse. Roughly 177 days. So 177, 177, 177, 177, 177, which that's about 6 months. Same thing here. 177 to there. So you can see the day count. I put the day count on here. Oops. I put the day count on here. You can see. So it's like between here and here, it's 177. Between there and there is 177. And that holds true over here too. Between here and here is 177, 177, 77. You get it. So it may be that this guy is supposed to be here. This guy is supposed to be here. And then this guy is supposed to be there. Does that fit? Nope. That means this guy goes here. And then there's a space. And then this one. Right there. And then that guy there. Yeah. Which we need to turn off the chiasms. All right. So that might actually be. So this 812, what I thought was the magnetic pole shift, this might technically be the opening of seal number 5 and might be the actual start of the Great Tribulation, which would make more sense with what we're experiencing right now because nothing really happened on this day. We were thinking maybe it just marks the change of focus spiritually. It was soon after this that Trump went into Iran. But it may be. I wouldn't say that we're actually in anything that seems like the Great Tribulation. There's wars going on around the world. There's people who are dying all over the world. There is, food and logistics problems. But by and large, I'd say globally, people are doing relatively the same. It's definitely like the days of Noah. So I may have gotten it off by 6 months. And what's interesting is you can see how I did that. It wasn't until I actually visualized this pattern to be able to actually see that. So this might actually be the center point of the reversing pattern of this thing. Where is it? This thing. So it might not actually be January 10th, 2024. It might actually be April 8th, 2024 is the center point. So that might be the center point of the chiasma. I think I based it on this one. So this was based on 856 days from here to there and 856 days from there to there. I don't know. I could have been right. This could still be seal number 6. But now we have a better way of visualizing it, and it's something that we'll continue to monitor. So let's move on here. I'll show you what these other timelines look like. So this is El Shaddai Ministries. So this is Pastor Mark Biltz. He recently came out and did an update on his timeline. His timeline is much, much further in the future than mine is. He does base some of his stuff on eclipses. So he's definitely taking note of October 7th as an important date in regards to the end times. He's got the Iran war. He's got that lasting 2 years. And then an extension of it here on this eclipse in 2026. Iran, Israel escalated. So this is the escalation 2 war. And what's interesting, the reason I wanted his timeline and what kind of got me started looking at everybody else's timelines is he actually found some interesting connections. That's not it. Oops. I'm having a hard time with my mouse. So he thinks this is the end of 1,290 days from the Tishri, from Tishri 1. So if you count from Tishri 1, 2030 to April 7th, 2034, that would be the end of unleavened bread. That's when he thinks is the end of the 1,290 days. And he also has a 1335 in here. Where is it? Is this it? There it is. The end after 1335 from the tribulation, blessing and delivery reference, which ends on Shavuot and Pentecost. So I'm gonna see if these the time span between those festivals isn't the same, and I'm gonna transfer that information over to my timeline to see if we can't learn, because I don't think it's limited to only the one he found here, because if you see, there's patterns, day count patterns. So this one, so what is this? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there is a similar pattern here that continues. So there's a repeating pattern. So he thinks that the 7-year tribulation goes from 2030 to 2037. I honestly don't think, with where we are in the world today, I think that's way too far in advance. I'm already tired enough of waiting since I've been looking and watching this stuff along with many others. That's why I added many other timelines on here. Return of the King. He's putting out a video every other week of when the rapture is going to be. So I thought it would be worth putting some of his stuff on here. He marks the Revelation sign as an important part of the countdown, but he does some other kind of weird calculations. And then he keeps picking these dates. He thinks I think this is when he thinks the rapture is going to be, rapture event. He thinks May 31st, 2026. Proposed date for the pre-tribulation rapture of the church falls on the 15th day of the 3rd month. So let's see. So that's Return of the King, the Messiah 2030. This one, I don't know why it doesn't load very well. I think it's too much data. I may have to come back and optimize their stuff. It's kind of starting to zoom out. Anyway, Messiah 2030 thinks the Messiah is going to return in 2030. Found this guy, John Bevere. Maybe it's just like, I think I may have found a bug. Long spans are slow. I don't know why it wasn't slow like this all day. I don't know what's going on. Let's see. He's got the 3rd day. He puts the millennial reign here from 2075 to 3075. And then right here, he's got 1967 to 2067 is the generation window. 100-year generation. I don't agree with that. I think that's too far out. And you got God's roadmap to the end. He's a big fan of the blood moons. He's always pointing at the tetrads and the triads and the all those things. He is looking at what is he looking at? Yeah, planetary alignment. So when's he say? Has he not set a date for the rapture? Good for him. I thought he had I thought he had a rapture watch date. Guess not. All right, and then finally we've got Christian Widner. So he's got the eclipse that happened right before the Revelation 12 sign. For some reason, he thinks seals 1 through, like, all the seals opened up here. He puts the end of the tribulation at 2027, which is about right. You know, we're in the ballpark there, but he's got this based on counting jubilees, which Mark Biltz does that too. He counts the jubilees. Predicted escalation, 2025. Hamas attack, Ring of Fire, 7-year tribulation. When's he have that? He's got that from 2020 to 2027. Yeah, I would almost agree with that. And then that's my timeline, which I think that the seals were marked by eclipses and that there's a pattern here that informs when the other seals are going to open. And the reason I started looking for that is because there's only 4 living creatures. Calling attention to the first 4 events, which leaves you to wonder how you're supposed to know when the last 3 events happen. There's enough of a pattern here that we can make some educated guesses, and I think that's really the key. One hiccup is the 7 years. So this pattern is nice and neat up until you get to the 7 years. So the trumpets and the bowl judgments, which I think that's what is after this. And I think that probably happens probably between the opening of seal number 7 and Tishri 1 here. So I think this is where we need to fit the bowls and the judgments. I think this is basically seal number 7. And what's interesting here is if we do a little, I got a little ruler. So if we do a ruler for 1,260 days, 1,000, close enough. So if you put Trump, what's here? So this is the 2 witnesses. So if you take from the time that Donald Trump and Elon Musk, so that's this, Trump is the U.S. president. This is when Elon started doing Doge with Trump, and everybody started treating Elon with Trump derangement syndrome. That was when Elon derangement syndrome happened. So if you go from when they started working together to this eclipse, that's about 1,260 days. It's actually July 3rd. So that's close enough that I could see that actually being potentially even the opening of seal number 7. So you'd have basically the death of the 2 witnesses, and then the resurrection of the 2 witnesses, and then shortly after that, the opening of seal number 7. So that would be a good argument for, let's see, when is that? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would put seal number 6 there and seal number 5 there. So we may actually be 6 months early. So seal number 5 may not open until August 12th, 2026, which that would put seal number 6 at, when is that eclipse? I don't think we've looked at this one. February 6, 2027 would be the opening of seal number 6. So that would be the rotation of the magnetic. That would be the magnetic pole shift. And then you'd have a period of time here between. So you'd have basically 1 year. Yeah. So from here to here is about 360 days, I think. Here, we can measure. So from there, oops. Ruler. There to there. Oh, wait, what does it say? 500 days. So it's like a year and a half. Okay, so it's a year and a half between seal number 6 and the opening of seal number 7. So that would put the Great Tribulation here. So we may still be in seal number 4. I don't know. I'm going to continue to work on this. I think we got some cool tools. Can continue to add features to this. But pretty cool stuff, huh? Does that interest you guys? This is what I love doing. I love building tools and doing these calculations so that we can kind of watch. And I think that's why it's important that you don't go making claims that, somebody gave you special information, because you can see we have all the puzzle pieces to work with there. God gave us the eclipses. The eclipses have a pattern. There are certain day counts between the eclipses. And when you combine that with, what's written, I believe wholeheartedly that Jesus, not only did he intend God, actually I'd say God, because God gave this to his son, Jesus. I fully believe that God intended us to know this information. That's why Revelation 4, and it took computers to realize this stuff. He knew that this wouldn't be understood until we had the computers in order to recognize this. So we needed to be able to visualize the globe. We had to be able to visualize the globe like this. We had to, here, let's turn off all these layers. And these layers. We had to be able to visualize this globe and realize that John was taken up to here. So this is just John where he was taken up to, because it says he was taken, a door opened in heaven and he was taken up. So his perspective was looking down at the earth, and from that perspective you could see the constellations. And then once you know the constellations, and then you've got the 24 elders who, when they cast their crowns before the throne, it's no coincidence that those happened in the segments of skies with constellations on the days that events happened on Earth that tie all of this stuff together. So I think this is part of what Jesus meant when he said, I tell you these things beforehand so that when they begin to happen, you will believe. And I hope that we can get this information out more so that people like Tovia Singer can realize this is actual evidence that proves that Jesus is the Messiah. And honestly, it may not come to pass until he gets here, until the Messiah shows up. This may be archival information to act as a testimony to prove that he is who he says he is. I'll testify to it. He gave us the information ahead of time. Here's the step-by-step plan. These are the things that happened that prove he gave us this information. So it is written that God gave this information to Jesus. Jesus gave it to his disciples. His disciples wrote it down. And in the case of John in the book of Revelation, he sent an angel to signify it to John. So that angel that gave this information to John gave him a deeper, he gave him visual aids. You know what I mean? Like he took him up above the earth, and, John was trying to describe what he saw. Well, part of the reason why this was hidden and people didn't understand a lot of it is because the imagery that was used wouldn't make sense until we had the technology to make sense of it. To be able to visualize the earth, to be able to show the constellations, to be able to look at where these things take place. So if you're looking at like this here, and you've got the constellations in the corners, that's when you're looking at this. Oops. So this is the North Pole. So right here, this is the North Pole. This is basically what John was looking at. He was looking down at the earth like this. And also like the information about the seals, like the fact that I can go, if you look at the stars here, when the earth rotates like this, where the north and south pole are down at the equator, that's going to make the stars roll up like a scroll. You're going to see stars move out of their place. And also the islands, look at this, like actually it's probably going to be more like that. I fully expect that like the landmass and the landmass is going to come together, and that at the North and South Pole it will be just water, because it'll probably freeze again up there. And it's interesting because this could make sense for how God flooded the earth. Can you imagine? Because it is written that Noah documented that the earth shook like a drunkard, moved out of its place. So he basically said the earth did this, moved like a drunkard. So, if the North and South Pole were just completely frozen water, when God said that he broke up the waters from the deep, this could be the deep. So it could be that when he did this and he moved the earth, oops, I'm trying to get this North Pole back up there. Go back to work. Go back to your home. Actually, I have a reset button somewhere. Maybe I don't. Where's my reset button? There's supposed to be a reset button here. Does that not show up on small screens? Okay. Anyway. Yeah, it may entirely be that that's what caused the flooding of the earth. Can you imagine? So if you turn this up here to where there's more land up here and this water begins to melt, this might be what caused the flood. And it could also be what caused the division of the continents. There's a popular Kent Hovind who owns a Dinosaur Adventureland often talks about that, you don't need the continents to shift. You don't need these plates to move in order to separate the land masses. In some cases, you just need water to fill in the gaps. But the fact that bowl number 7 says that the earth will be flat and the islands will flee away and the mountains will be no more, I would argue that there's probably not going to be big valleys. It's probably going to be just one giant landmass. That's why I think that we're going to probably get back to a Pangea, which makes more sense under a millennial reign. And, there's actually, it just reminded me of Zechariah 4. Isn't there a reference to the plains and the mountains in Zechariah 4? Is that a reference to the final? Is that a reference to when Yeshua is going to return here? Zechariah 14. So if we go down to Zechariah 4, sometimes it's faster just to zip. Zechariah 3. Zechariah 4. This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by power, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts. Who are you, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you shall become a plain. Is this referring to bowl number 7 when the islands flee away and the mountains become a plain? Who are you, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you shall become a plain. Is this a reference to the earth going back to Pangea? And he shall bring forth the capstone with shouts, grace, grace to it. Moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, the hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this temple. His hand shall also finish it. Then you will know that the Lord of hosts has sent me to you, for who has despised the day of small things? For these 7 rejoice to see the plumb line in the hand of Zerubbabel. They are the eyes of the Lord, which scan to and fro throughout the whole earth. Then I answered and said to him, what are these 2 olive trees? And there's your 2 witnesses. Or 2 olive trees. Anyway, pretty cool stuff, huh? This is what really stokes my fire, is figuring out the puzzle of the end time events. And you can see why. I mean, it is pretty amazing to see these patterns. Like, this is just cool. I mean, like, the fact that eclipses do this and that they reverse their order like that to where, it's like they go this way the first time and they go that way the next time. That is just really cool. I love to marvel at the creation. I love to marvel at what God has done. And, and we were given this information ahead of time so that when it happens, we'll believe. And I don't think we're the ones who need to believe. There are others out there who need to know that this was given beforehand so that when it happens, they will believe. And I think maybe perhaps that's when there'll be that reconciliation where the fathers turn to the children and the children to the fathers. So I guess in ending, it may be that seal number 5 has not opened. We might be 6 months early. So we'll see how things continue to go. It may be, so this, what that could do is that could buy us the time for when they say peace and safety. So basically, based on the events that have happened here, we could get to that point where they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. So the Great Tribulation might indeed actually be nuclear, and that might be the Great Tribulation, where had it not been shortened, no flesh would survive. So that's what I got for you guys today. Keep looking up. Our redemption is so very close. We're continuing to see God's mighty hand move in these things. It seems like the whole world is looking for the Mashiach. And the Jews, they're expecting him here in Nisan 1. So Thursday, March 19th. I highly doubt it. I'm not expecting him to show up at that time, but I think it's cool that they do, that they think that that's when he's going to show up. Let's see. You guys have any questions? Watchful, ever thought you might be the chosen witness for the Jews? Oh, I doubt it. I think it's more of a collective thing. If I were anybody special, I think I'd have a much bigger platform. I would, if I was, this is one of the reasons why I look at other people like, even for the two witnesses, it's just like who has the reach, and that's why it's just like I'm constantly trying to figure out what can I do to like reach the people who have the reach. And I know Tovia Singer is a pivot point. I really do. I believe that he, just to see how he's grown. A lot of people don't realize this about Tovia Singer. He had almost a hatred for Christians. He won't say that he did, but if you watch some of his older videos before October 7th, he was mean. And I can actually relate, having been in a cult, to where, when you think you have a God type knowledge, you tend to be very condescending to people. And he was very condescending to people, very lording over them. He was right, they were wrong. And ever since October 7th, he's completely changed his tune, and he's turned from, bashing people over the head with a hammer to enticing them with, cookies and milk. He's just that's the drastic change that I've seen in Tovia Singer. So, maybe, I'm sure I play a role. I'm under no misconception that, I don't like to elevate myself in any way, shape, or form, because I think I'm part of a bigger group. I think I could probably make a case for being like maybe part of the 144,000, which even I don't like going there, but it is a fact that I have followed the Messiah, the Lamb. I followed Jesus my entire life. I do believe that I hear that still small voice, but it's extremely difficult to identify when you hear that still small voice. So I've learned not to be egotistical and constantly proclaim, God told me this, God told me that. I think that's a sign of immaturity, because just as soon as you start to think God told you something, it's just like, oh, go play the lottery, and then you lose money. You know what I mean? But even part of the 144,000, I don't know what it means to be a virgin in the sense that the 144,000 are virgins. If it means that they've never, been intimate with another religion, I could confidently say I've never been intimate with another religion. I followed Hashem and his son. I followed God and his Lamb my entire life. And I think that puts me in a unique category, to say the least. I wouldn't call myself perfect by any means. So, I mean, I am a witness, that's for sure. But as far as like any more special than anyone else, I'd hate to discourage anyone from like looking for me to do something. I'm doing the best I can, and my goal is to encourage others to do the best they can. If you have the capability to help another help another person during this time. If you can't get out, how can you bless people with your words? How can you lift people up during this time and encourage them while we wait? It's like that's my objective. But I do believe that we're in that window, and I think that Trump is a catalyst for change. I really do think that Trump probably fits the pattern for Elijah, because he has that I don't know, he seems to have many attributes in common with Elijah, and also seems to be a catalyst for change right now. I mean, like, just look how the world reacts to him. It's very much like they would react to Elijah. So I think I definitely play a role, but as far as like, I'm not under any misconception that I'm like specifically named in the Bible. And I don't think anybody really should be looking for that kind of recognition. Like, even if you are, you really shouldn't be. I don't think you should be acknowledging it. I think even like John, look at John. I think that's a really good example. So like, we know from reading about John the Baptist that he had the spirit of Elijah on him from his birth. And yet when they asked him if he was a prophet or if he was Elijah, he said no. It's just like, I don't think we should go around. I think there's the potential that you fall prey to that narcissistic spirit that wants to whisper in your ear that you're somebody greater than you're not. The Satan that tempted Jesus to, tempted him in who he is, saying, jump off this ledge, for it is written that you shall be lifted up. I think we have to be very careful about that voice of, and it really, especially when you read about like Matthew 24, when it talks about, for many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ. Like, that's a huge red flag for this period of time. Like, if you're lifting yourself up and you're trying to proclaim that, you are coming as an anointed one in the name of Jesus, like, I would rather be, so what's that say? I'd rather be a janitor in heaven than a ruler in hell. You know what I mean? It's just like, you're better to be in the lowly positions rather than elevating yourself and finding out that, not only were you not anointed in the thing that you thought you were doing, but you led people astray. Like, there's consequences for doing that. So I try to be very careful with all of that stuff, and I encourage everybody to be very careful. Always take the empathetic approach, the empathetic, lowly approach. Don't lift yourself up. Don't be number one in line. Don't make proclamations about anointings unless you're absolutely 100% sure. If God truly has anointed you, or if he truly does speak to you, and everything, well, I don't know about everything comes to pass, but my personal experience is listening to God is a walk, and you have to be very careful to not think more highly of yourself than you ought. So that's my spiel about that. I think it's a good way for everybody to think of themselves. Think of each one of us as equal. None of us is greater than the other. We're all brothers and sisters in this walk. We all have, our mistakes and our flaws. I don't make an effort. If you guys see me, and if I do, you should call me out. I don't go around trying to label people and use those labels against them as an attack. My objective is to, how can I bring people to Hashem? How can I bring people to God? How can I show them God working? All glory goes to God. No glory goes to me, right? Like, I'm trying to follow in Jesus's footsteps, in that he always directed people to his Father. The only time that he really directed people to himself is when he acknowledged who he truly was. Like, if you're a king, it's okay to acknowledge that you're a king, right? But he's a servant king. He's a priest. He has that level of humility and empathy. He doesn't think of himself higher than he ought. You know what I mean? So the only time Jesus really led people to himself is when he said, no one comes to the Father but by me. And that's because he was fixing the problem that Adam introduced. So it was true. I do believe that that is true. That, there's corruption in the blood. The dominion was given away. And not only did he have to fulfill the law and retrieve that dominion, he had to go back and receive the kingdom. There were things he had to do, if that makes sense. So it is true that no man comes to the Father but by him. He is that mediator. It's because he was the payment for the consequences of sin and death. So anyway, any other questions or comments? Oh my goodness, this takes a lot of time. Analytical mind. Yeah, I'm sorry. I try only do this like once a month or every 2 weeks to get into the nitty gritty. Some people find it incredibly interesting. I like to do updates from time to time, just to like constantly refine the data set that we're working with. I think you're on the right track. Thank you. I think we're on the right track. You might be surprised at who God calls and when he decides to put a burden on a person's heart and call someone. He opens a way. Yeah. My experience, what can I say in regards to like burdens and directions? There's been times where I felt God was yelling at me. You know what I mean? Have you ever had that experience to where it's just like you think maybe God is pointing you in a, so it's so weird, like that still small voice, like listening to God work in your life and talking to you. To me, it's never been, well, I can't say never 100%, but by and large, my experience is that it's extremely hard to differentiate your own personal thoughts from the working of the Holy Spirit in your life. And that if you're always looking to obey the law, keeping in mind loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself, if you're acting on the things in accordance with that, it doesn't matter if it's your thoughts or if it's God inspiring you. But I have definitely had moments where I felt God was yelling at me, where that still small voice was, you need to do this now. And that could be me, or it could be that Holy Spirit, trying to impress upon me to do something. And I think that's, something that we all experience when we, love God long enough. So, yeah. Alrighty. Well, I don't have anything else to share for tonight. Well, I'm going to continue working on this timeline to see if I can't start fitting in the trumpets and the bowls. That's my next objective. While we kind of wait to see what happens in the world around us, to see if we get any other anchor points so that we can identify a piece of prophecy with what's going on. Because we're in the thick of it right now. This is like the thick of prophecy being fulfilled. This is the time that all of creation has waited for, ever since the fall of mankind, since sin and the curse entered in the world. They've all been waiting for this time where it's coming to an end and things are being restored. This is the most exciting time ever. So it's like a daily work, a daily labor of love to look for these things, and, stay excited. I tell you, it's been exhausting. I totally get the parts of the scripture where it talks about wearing out the saints. Because I can't tell you how many times we thought the rapture was going to happen. So, and even now, it's just like, I was thinking August 12th looked like, a potential high watch time, but now I think we might be off by 6 months. So whatever. It'll happen when it happens. Maybe he does come in like a thief in the night. Surprise, I'm here. That'd be great. I don't think he will, because I think that the things were written for a reason and they're going to be fulfilled in the order that they were written. So if seal number 6 is the magnetic pole shift, I think that does need to happen before he returns. So I don't think there'll be a surprise rapture, unfortunately. But anyway, I'll leave you there. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like this content, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. And visit us here Monday through Friday. We're on at 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom. Keep looking up.